Okay, so once we are ready, we can start the first phase of meditation, contemplation on the body. Right, so we are going to visualize all the hairs from head to toe. May they be well and happy. All the hairs of the head and all the hairs of the face. May they be well and happy. Every pore. And all the rest of the hairs of the body, may they be well and happy. And once you have loving kindness to the hairs, and the mind is at the right tone for negotiation, they introduce the Dhamma to the mind. All these hairs are subject to birth and death. So the hairs grow long, they get dirty, oily, sweaty. They crack when it's dry, they turn white, and they fall off. Every day we have lots of hair falling off. And then we can think of the skin, right? Beneath hairs are the skin, so the same thing. May all the skin be well and happy. And all this skin are subject to this birth and death. Skin can oily, dirty, they wrinkle. And crack, and have all kinds of skin disease, rashes, boils, pimples. And the dead skin fall off every day. And next we can think of beneath the skin is all the muscles and all the flesh. So from head to toe, we wish all the flesh and muscles and all the fat, yeah, from head to toe, well and happy. So it's like imagining looking at the doctor's office. They have a chart on the human biology, yeah? Or you go to Chinese sensei, the same, on the meridian chart. So if you want, you can also feel the part of the body. So 2 in 1, visualize and feel that part of the body. And all this flesh and muscle and fat, right? They go through this birth, aging, decay, and passing away. So the muscles, fat, right? They burn out, wear and tear, muscle strain, muscle pull, muscle tear. And they shrink as we get older, or they get burned up when we use our energy. And next we can think of the bones, skeleton, yeah, from head to toe, the human skeleton. So from the skull, the jawbone, the teeth, right, spinal cord, rib cage, arms, hips, and the legs, all the bones, may they be well and happy. And all these bones are subject to birth and death. Every time the bones need replenishment of this calcium, and it's used up, right? Minerals lost, bone density decrease, wear and tear, micro fractures. Then we can think beneath the bones are the internal organs. The bones are to protect the organs. So the same thing, we have the brain, the eyeballs, tongue, and all the way down the windpipe or the gullet, down to the lungs, the heart, and the diaphragm, spleen, liver, pancreas, stomach, small, large intestines, and bladder, kidneys, may all the organs be well and happy. So all the organs are subject to birth, aging, decay, and passing away as well. So all the time the cells are dying off and rebuilding. And sometimes have body has certain malfunction here and there, maybe stomach bloatedness or maybe diarrhea, whatever it is, right? Sometimes have different kinds of ailments. And once we are quite detached from the body, then we can transit to the second phase of meditation, which is the unification of the mind through breathing, the breath meditation. So we are now going to isolate the attention to one small point below the nostril, above the upper lip. And the whole idea is you can ignore all the other sense stimuli. There's no need to visualize anything, just using the sense of touch to feel the in and out breathing and the contact of the skin below the nostril. No need to feel your windpipe, your lungs, or your diaphragm. So we inhale and exhale naturally with our reflex action, no need to control. And the same concept, when we breathe in and out, we use loving kindness. When we inhale, wish the breath well, exhale, wish the breath happy. Right? No need to fight or coerce the mind to be still. We focus on cause, which is the desire, reduce this, call it the violence to the mind, forcing the mind, that's aversion. So once we reduce this coercion, and the mind will naturally settle down by itself, just like the simile of a pond of water. If there are ripples, we don't try to use force to stop the ripples. We just let the ripples be, just leave it alone, make peace, and naturally the ripples will subside. So I always like to emphasize on the right effort, and it's just constant thinking, right thinking, not the ordinary, normal kind of thinking. So meditation requires lots of skill, skillful thoughts. If meditation is just no thinking and idling, then everybody can meditate already. So lots and lots of metta to your breath. Right, the breath meditation for my routine is not the same as Qigong meditation. We are not training the breath. That's why we are not controlling, we are not storing any form of breath or vital energy. Right, we are just learning to detach from this object. So similarly, like when we think of the hair, the nails, the teeth, the skin, we are not training those body parts. We are training the mind to let go and reduce the desire. And once the mind is relatively at peace with this loving kindness, then again we introduce the Dharma to the mind. So when inhale, exhale, there is impermanence. We're going to observe the impermanence of the breath. So the same thing, everybody has different spectrum of sensitivity. So sometimes even throughout the whole day, we might have different levels of sensitivity. So do not attach to your previous experience. So whatever you can feel, whatever sensation you feel, you just take that as it is. It can be the physical air, or it can be the mental kind of subtle area, mental energy, mental attention. For elements in physical elements or the perceptual mental elements. So the whole idea is not to purposely generate any sensation. We be a passive observer, let things surface naturally. The whole idea is to understand the mind, see things as they are. So every time you observe a change, then you take note that it is impermanent, or rising and falling, or birth and death, whatever label that you like. So the whole idea is continual labeling or continual reminder, so that you can create this detachment and unclinging of the mind. Because this is actually like a swim against the river, swimming upstream. You have the stream of desire. The stream is flowing to the sense bases, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. Any nice object, then the mind will cling and flow to that direction. So we're actually flowing the opposite, swimming the opposite direction. So it requires lots of effort. Once we stop paddling or stop swimming, then we'll be flowing along with the current. So this river actually has an end point. like a bank or a safe zone. When you keep on contemplating on impermanence, the mind will eventually settle to a point where it cannot settle any further. And if the mind has settled down, same thing, remember this emotion. It is like remembering a landmark of a new area, and also not forgetting the impermanence of the breath. Yeah, we still need to remind ourselves not to step back into the river, because karmically we are so habitualized to swim along with the current. Okay, and once we have familiarized with this level 0 of this one-pointedness, make sure we fulfill two criteria. Criteria 1, that we have remembered the emotion, and criteria 2, the mind has to be calm. If the mind is not yet settled or calm, that means they're still clinging. Yeah? So continue with the impermanence until the mind doesn't cling. And once we have fulfilled the two criteria, and then we have two options. Option 1, we can choose to remain at level 0, or option 2, we can choose to increase the level. So to increase the level, we make a wish to let go of this mind, just like a child letting go of a balloon. So basically it's a renunciation, letting go. So once we release the mind, we take a step back. That means we don't interfere, don't exert, don't push. And we let the mind evolve naturally by itself as we observe its transition, see whether there's any change of emotion. And if the mind has arrived at the first level, then a new indicator should manifest this pleasant emotion of joy and happiness. If you can't differentiate the two, never mind, just know it's a pleasant emotion should surface that override the previously bland emotion. So you take note of this emotion and also the impermanence of breath until the mind settles down to a new point of calmness. So let's say during halfway in the meditation, there's maybe some disturbance. You can carry on from wherever momentum you're left off and continue with that uh, routine. So be mindful of two things, the emotion and also the impermanence of the breath. Yeah? So this is to prevent clinging onto the sort of pleasant emotion. Any form of clinging will produce tension and suffering. So if the mind has settled down to a new point of stability, then we can enjoy this experience, remember this emotion, and also not forgetting the impermanence of the breath. Okay, and if you have tasted the first level of concentration, make sure you fulfill two criteria. Criteria one, that you remember the emotion, and criteria two, the mind has to be calm. And once we have fulfilled the two criteria, then we again have two options. Option one, you can choose to remain at the first level, or option two, you can choose to increase the gear, like driving car. Yeah? So if we choose to increase, then we can make a wish to let go of the mind, just like a child and letting go of a balloon. And once we release the mind, we take a step back without interfering. We let the mind evolve naturally by itself as we observe any changes of emotion. And if the mind has arrived at the second level, and the indicator should be a new kind of pleasant emotion, a slightly more intense version of this joy and happiness due to lack of certain thought processes. So you can take note of this new pleasant emotion and also the impermanence of the breath until the mind settles down. And the mind is settled, and you can enjoy this experience, remember the emotion, and also the impermanence of the breath. And once you have tasted the second level concentration, make sure we fulfill two criteria. One, that we remember the emotion, and number two, the mind has to be calm. And once we fulfill the two criteria, then again you have two options. Either we can choose to remain at the second level, or we can choose to increase. Right? And if we choose to increase, we can make a wish to let go of the mind, just like a child letting go of a balloon. And once we release the mind, the same thing, do not interfere. Let it evolve by itself as we observe its transition, any change of emotion. And the mind has arrived at the third level. Then there should be a new indicator, a different pleasant emotion. So technically it's just happiness and no joy. So you take note of this emotion and also the impermanence of the breath until the mind settles down. So if the mind has settled down, then you can enjoy this experience. Remember the emotion and also the impermanence of the breath. And once you have tasted the third level of concentration, make sure you fulfill the two criteria. First criteria, that you remember the emotion, and criteria 2, the mind has to be calm. And if you have fulfilled the two criteria, then we make a wish. There are two options: either we choose to remain at the third level or choose to increase. And if we want to increase, then we make a wish to let go of the mind, just like a child letting go of a balloon. And once we release the mind, then same thing, we do not interfere, let it evolve by itself as we observe its transition, any change of emotion. And the mind has arrived at the fourth level. And the indicator is this emotion of equanimity. So the pleasant emotion of happiness is gone. So left with this equanimity. Yeah? So take note of this emotion and also the impermanence of the breath for the mind to settle down. And for those who are overexerting, maybe you might want to change to loving kindness. Yeah. For those who are calm, then it's all right. Remain with impermanence. For those who are tense and overexerting, and you need to soften up with loving kindness. And if the mind has settled down, then you can enjoy the experience, remember the emotion, and also the impermanence of the breath. For those who just join in, we are doing the breath meditation halfway, so you can start off with loving kindness to your breath. And the rest of the other participants, if you are at the fourth level and you've tasted the fourth level, then we can make sure we fulfill two criteria. One is that we remember the emotion, and criteria two, the mind is calm. And once with the two criteria, we can reverse the order. We can make a wish for the mind to go down to level 3. So as the mind descends, we can observe its transition, any change of emotion. And if you have arrived at level 3, then the emotion of happiness should resurface. So you take note of that emotion and also the impermanence of the breath for the mind to settle down. And if your mind has settled down, make sure you fulfill the two criteria, right? And you remember the emotion and also the mind is calm. Then we can make a wish to go down to level 2. And as the mind descends to level 2, we can observe the transition of the mind, any change of emotion. And if the mind has arrived at level 2, then this different pleasant emotion, the emotion of joy should resurface. So now it's a combination of both joy and happiness. So if a person wants to differentiate between joy and happiness, they should transit between the second and third level of concentration often. Yeah. So for those at level 2, then we take note of the emotion and also the impermanence of the breath for the mind to settle down. And if the mind has settled down, then make sure we fulfill the two criteria. One, that we remember the emotion, and number 2, the mind has settled. And once we fulfill the two criteria, then we make a wish for the mind to go down to level 1. So as the mind descends to level 1, we can observe the transition, any change of emotion. And if you have arrived at level 1, then it will be a different indicator, different pleasant emotion, less intense joy and happiness, with more cluttering of thoughts. So you can take note of this emotion and also the impermanence of the breath for the mind to settle down. And if the mind has settled down, then we can make sure we fulfill the 2 criteria. 1, that you remember the emotion, and 2, the mind is calm. Then we can make a wish for the mind to go down back to level 0, the original one-pointedness of the breath. And if the mind has arrived at level 0, and make sure the emotion is the bland one, right? No more pleasant emotions. So you take note of this emotion and also the impermanence of the breath for the mind to settle down. So make sure when you're at ground zero, the mind is calm and settled. It means no clinging. Right? So for some people, when they do this meditation, they may cling to the concentration levels, and they may think of the nice experience of the different levels. And when they cling to it, then there will be quite tension, a form of suffering. So the way to overcome it is keep on observing impermanence and let the mind settle and uncling. And the mind has settled down, then we can spread the awareness throughout the rest of the body. You can feel the fingers and toes, and there's no need to quarantine your mind and your breath anymore. And once we have spread the awareness throughout the body, then we can transit to phase 3 of the meditation, and we are going to lift the travel restrictions of the mind. So there's no need to fixate the mind on any particular area, and we let the mind roam about freely, let it fly around, let it autopilot, No need to control, no need to direct, no need to exert. So in this particular training, we are doing this energy saving mode, because this is the state of mind we are mostly constantly at. Let's say when we are sleeping or resting, and this is the mode of mind. So when the mind is scattered, either we are attached or detached. So when we cling to any sense object, then we are attached. And if we are skillful enough, we can detach and save this battery. Earlier on, we charge the mind with this calm, certain levels of battery, and we don't want to waste that energy so easily. So in order to save this energy, we are going to do this real-time contact tracing of the mind. So this mind moves around through 6 points of contact: your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So how to locate the attention? Right? The attention is encompassed by the 4 elements. So as long as you're able to detect the 4 elements, you can know the location of the mind. So it doesn't have to be within the body, it can be outside as well. So if it's outside the body, then it's subtle 4 elements. The movement of the attention, that is actually the subtle wind element. Any movement is classified as the wind element. And when the mind is sort of paying attention to that object, any density, any form of tension, that is the earth element. The heat is the fire, and the moisture, right? That is the water element. So these four elements is called form. Normally the five aggregates can be separated into name and form, nama, rupa. So the rupa is the four elements. And why are they together? Yeah. So when we pay attention to the four elements, the attention is called the consciousness, the awareness. And together it has this thing called feeling. Right? Either you find it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And together with it, there is this thing called perception. Perception is basically your past memory, all the labels and jargons you give to that object. You can call it the earth element, the chair, the wall, the ceiling, the fan, your body, whatever. So all the names is called perception. Basically, whatever labels you learned before in the past. So if you have never learned before, you experience something new experience, then the mind will be stunned. Yeah? So there will be non-verbal cognition, non-verbal perception. And the mental formation is the movement of the mind. Why is the mind moving from one attention to another? Right? That movement is the formation. Chinese is called xing or volition movement. So it's natural for the mind to move around. Yeah, that is not attention deficit disorder. So we can be a passive observer and do not interfere. It's just like a scientific study, right? You want to truly understand the nature of this mind matter. So again, to narrow down the investigation, we can ask ourselves 3 questions. Question 1, using your own personal observation, your own personal evidence, is these 5 aggregates permanent or impermanent? So this is question 1. And question 2, is these 5 aggregates truly self? If we believe it is truly self, truly mine, truly me, then do we have total control over these 5 aggregates? Right? And if we try to control them, will there be suffering? Will there be tension? So this phase of meditation is little to no samatha and mostly vipassana. Yeah? There's no fixating of the mind. So previously in the second phase is some vipassana, mostly samatha, there's fixing of the mind. So now we're developing a higher technology. Yeah? No need to fix the mind, but still can maintain calmness. So using whatever we have learned from this exercise of detachment, now going to recondition the mind to apply the mind in various directions, deliberately directing the mind, but how to do it in a way that is detached, free from strain. Right? So now we're doing this radiating of loving kindness. So it's like stretching the mind. Yeah? So we are going to wish all beings in front well and happy. And we come back to ourselves and we wish all beings behind well and happy. And we come back to ourselves and we wish all beings on the left well and happy. And we come back to ourselves and we wish all beings on the right well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we can wish all beings above well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish all beings below well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And this time we fill the whole body with loving kindness again. So it's a bit like revisiting the first phase of meditation, but this time with slightly more reconditioning of the mind with concentration and wisdom, so that we can see whether we are more attached or detached. And eventually we can radiate this loving kindness in all directions, above, below, and all across. Starting with the house, may all beings at home be well and happy. And then we can radiate the loving kindness to the surrounding neighbors, all beings in the neighborhood, be well and happy. And we can radiate this loving kindness to the entire country, whichever country you're in. May all beings in your country be well and happy. And we can wish all beings on this planet, all beings on earth, be well and happy. So as we stretch our mind further and wish for world peace, make sure to check there's also inner peace. Yeah? And eventually we can wish all beings in the universe, may all beings be well and happy. So we maintain this mindfulness as long as possible. And before we conclude the meditation session, again a reminder from the Karaniya Metta Sutta. As long as we are mindful of this boundless loving kindness, be it standing, sitting, walking, or lying down, then this is the highest conduct. And with that in mind, we can formally end the meditation. Right? Physically, we can open the eyes, but mentally, still meditating. All right, so if there's nothing, then we can dedicate merits. So after we do meditation, then the signal is stronger, then we can dedicate merits to the unseen beings. Right? So why we dedicate to these heavenly beings? Because they are our cloud drive, yeah? We save the Dhamma files. So if the human beings, human realm screw up and the Dhamma is lost, then the heavenly beings will descend. Yeah, so the next Buddha will be from the heavenly realm, and they are the protectors of the Dharma. Okay, so we dedicate merits to them. Akasatha ca Bhumata Devanaga Mahirika Punyam Tang Anumoditva Chirang Rakantu Loka Sasanam Etavata ca Amhehi Sapadang Punya Sapadang Sabe Deva Sabe Bhuta Sabe Sata Anumodantu Sabba Sampati Siddhya. And transference of merits to departed. Right, so any departed relatives and friends, they can be of any realm, hungry ghosts, or even devas. Yeah. Idang vinyatinang hotu sukita hotu nyatayo. Idang vinyatinang hotu sukita hotu nyatayo. Idang vinyatinang hotu sukita hotu nyatayo. And the aspiration. So this is the one that in case you want to talk about next life, want to learn the Dhamma, so we carry on this aspiration. Ibina punya kamena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yavani bana patiya sadhu sadhu sadhu. Okay, so that's the end of the retreat. Any announcements?
Yeah, Bhante. So, like Bhante said, next Tuesday we don't have any class. The next session will be on 1st December, the Tuesday class.
Okay.
So those interested to learn more on the links can join us on the 1st of December at 8:30 p.m.
Okay, all right.
Okay, all the videos are uploaded, like Bhante said, uploaded to YouTube. Just go to this link. You can see all the past recorded videos here. For this few days, 2 days of recording, give me some time. I'll edit it and upload it within this week. So thank you, Bhante.
Okay, no problem.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Right, sadhu,
Thank
sadhu.
you, Bhante.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay. No problem. Okay, right.
See you, Bhante, next Monday.
Okay, see you
Online.
again. All right. Bye.